Imagine discovering something that could make your brain so sharp you could master any skill in minutes. You'd become the smartest person in the world. That's exactly what happens to the hero of our story today. At the beginning of the story, we meet a man named Eddie. Eddie dreams of becoming a writer, and after a long time, he finally gets a chance to write a book for a publisher. But there's one problem. He hasn't written a single word yet. Every day he writes a little, then erases it, because he's unsure of himself. Eddie feels lost and worried about his future. His failures push his girlfriend Lindy to leave him. Before Lindy, he was married to a woman named Melissa, but she also left him for the same reasons: Eddie's laziness and lack of success. Feeling hopeless, Eddie wanders through the city, heading back to his apartment. That's when he runs into Vernon, the brother of his ex-wife, Melissa. They sit at a cafe and start talking. Eddie shares all his struggles, how he feels confused and stuck. Vernon listens carefully and then decides to help. He gives Eddie a small pill. First, Eddie laughs. "How can this tiny pill change my life?" he asks. But Vernon smiles and says, "It's not an ordinary pill. Once you take it, all your confusion will disappear. You'll be able to do anything you want brilliantly." Before leaving, Vernon gives Eddie his card so they can stay in touch. Desperate to change his life, Eddie decides to take the pill before heading into his apartment. On his way up the stairs, he runs into his landlady, who angrily reminds him about his unpaid rent. First, Eddie freezes, unsure what to say, but then the pill starts to take effect. Suddenly, Eddie feels a surge of clarity. His mind becomes sharper. He remembers everything he's ever read in his life. He notices a law book in her bag and says, "If I were preparing for an exam, I wouldn't read that book. There are much better ones out there." He then shares detailed legal insights, impressing her with his intelligence. Amazed by Eddie's newfound brilliance, the landlady forgets her anger and lets him go. When Eddie reaches his apartment, the first thing he notices is the mess. With his new energy and sharp mind, he cleans everything at lightning speed. Then he sits down and starts writing, this time confidently, no hesitation, no confusion. He pours out all his ideas in one go. The next morning, the pill's effect wears off. Eddie feels like his old self again, but the amazing part? He's finished writing the entire book in just one night. The editor is shocked and can't believe how quickly Eddie completed it. Later that day, Eddie receives a voice message from her. He's impressed and wants to give him more work. Eddie rushes to find Vernon, excited to tell him how the pill changed his life. That's when Vernon reveals the truth. The pill is a drug called NZT. It unlocks 100% of the brain's potential, allowing a person to use their mind to its full capacity. Hearing this, Eddie becomes eager for more. But before giving him another dose, Vernon says, "First go to the market, buy me a suit and a burger." Eddie agrees and leaves. When he returns, he's shocked. Vernon has been shot and killed. Terrified, Eddie calls the police. But as he looks around the room, he realizes someone killed Vernon for the pills. Before the police arrive, Eddie searches the place frantically. Finally, he finds a full packet of pills, a bundle of cash, a small box, and a diary. He grabs everything, just as the police knock at the door. Eddie is taken in for questioning. They ask him about the murder, but he gives little information. Eventually, they let him go. Back at home, Eddie takes another pill. Once again, his mind becomes razor sharp. Determined to change his life, he writes another book, this time in just 4 days. He hands it to the editor, and doesn't stop there. Eddie starts learning new skills, speaking foreign languages, playing cards, getting fit, and socializing confidently. One day, Eddie meets a stockbroker named Kevin, who gives him his card. Later, his new friends invite him to a beach party. There, Eddie has a realization. His true potential isn't in writing, it's in making money. Money from the stock market. Eager to test his theory, Eddie spends a week studying the market. With his enhanced brain power, he quickly understands the patterns. Using the $800 he found in Vernon's room, he invests and earns $2,000 in just one day. But to make more, he needs more capital. So he borrows $100,000 from a Russian loan shark named Gennady. Gennady warns him, "If you don't return my money on time, I'll skin you alive and hang it as a trophy." Despite the threat, Eddie takes the money and invests. In just 1 week, he turns $100,000 into $2 million. His success shocks everyone. Eddie becomes a sensation. His name appears in newspapers and business circles. One day, Eddie meets Lindy again. Seeing his confidence and success, she's impressed. They rekindle their relationship, spending beautiful moments together. But during one outing, Eddie notices a man following them. He ignores it, but the next day, he meets Kevin again, who introduces him to a powerful businessman, Carl Van Loon. Carl is intrigued by Eddie's ideas. They meet to discuss business and the stock market. Eddie's intelligence amazes Carl. On their way back, Carl offers him a ride home and hands Eddie some company files. As Eddie reviews them, He spots flaws instantly and suggests ways to fix them. Carl is blown away. He invites Eddie to meet again the next day, at a specific location, and that's where Eddie's extraordinary journey truly begins. Eddie decides to take a walk for a while. However, during this time, something strange begins to happen. He starts feeling dizzy, unfocused, disconnected. This is the side effect of the NZT pill. Eddie becomes disoriented, unaware of his actions. He finds himself in different places, without remembering how he got there. First he's in a club, then at a party, later, with a woman in a romantic moment he doesn't even recall starting. Suddenly, Eddie is at a train station. A group of goons surround him and attack. Although Eddie has never fought before, his enhanced brain recalls every Jackie Chan fight scene he's ever watched. He mimics those moves perfectly, and in minutes he defeats them all. Eventually he finds himself standing on a highway bridge, completely confused about how he got there. The next scene, Eddie wakes up from sleep. Groggy, disoriented, he begins checking the files Carl gave him, but decides not to take the pill again. He doesn't want to relive the chaos of the last 18 hours. But without the pill, his mind feels slow again. Unfocused, he can't make sense of the files. Still, he decides to meet Carl as planned, even though his brain feels like the old, unenhanced Eddie's. When Eddie meets Carl, he struggles to follow the conversation. His mind just can't keep up. Then on a nearby TV, a shocking news report catches his attention. The woman he was with last night has been found dead in a hotel room. Eddie freezes. Could he have done it? He can't remember. His memory is broken. He apologizes to Carl and rushes out of the room. Outside, Eddie feels sick. He vomits. His condition worsens quickly. He hasn't taken the pill in too long, and his body is craving it. But this time, Eddie makes a decision. He won't take another pill until he learns everything about NZT. He starts calling the numbers listed in Vernon's diary, the one he took from the apartment. One by one, he speaks to people who once used the pills, and one by one, he learns a horrifying truth. Most of them are dead. Finally, he calls the last number on the list, and to his shock, the voice on the other end belongs to the same man who's been following him. As Eddie realizes this, he sees the man nearby. Panicking, Eddie runs, escaping through crowded streets, until he stumbles into a small cafe. And there, unexpectedly, he meets his ex-wife, Melissa. Melissa looks different, older, tired. She reveals that she too once used NZT pills, but the side effects were devastating. She stopped taking them, and shows Eddie how the drug has aged her prematurely. Her hands shake. Her skin is pale. Melissa warns him, "Eddie, stop. The pills are destroying you, slowly from the inside." She explains that the addiction is almost impossible to quit, but if he wants to survive, he must reduce his dosage gradually. Later, Eddie runs into the Russian loan shark Gennady, the man who lent him $100,000. Gennady is furious. He attacks Eddie, demanding his money back. During the struggle, he notices a small pill in Eddie's hand. Curious, Gennady grabs it and swallows it. Almost instantly, his mood changes. Taking advantage of the distraction, Eddie withdraws money from the bank and repays him, just to get him off his back. But now, Eddie's condition is deteriorating fast. He's pale, weak, barely able to stand. Desperate for the NZT, he goes to Lindy's office and collapses. Shocked, Lindy rushes to his side. "Eddie, what's happening to you?" He tells her everything about the pill, the side effects, the danger. Then he pleads, "Please, bring the pills from my apartment." Lindy agrees and runs to get them. But on her way back, the mysterious man who's been following Eddie for days appears again. He chases her through the streets. Terrified, Lindy runs as fast as she can, ducking between cars. She hides behind a large rock and calls Eddie. Eddie's voice trembles. "Lindy, take one pill. It'll help you think faster. Trust me." Lindy hesitates, then swallows the pill. Within seconds, her mind clears. Everything slows down. Her reflexes sharpen. She calculates the man's movements and escapes. Afterward, Lindy returns to Eddie's side and gives him one of the pills to stabilize him. The next morning, Lindy begs him to quit. "I took it once, Eddie, and I'll never take it again. You shouldn't either." But Eddie shakes his head. "I can't stop now. Not yet. There's still something I have to finish." Lindy sighs and agrees to give him time, as long as he promises to quit gradually. Eddie takes another pill, but this time he's cautious. He studies how to reduce the side effects. He lowers the dosage. He avoids alcohol. He eats properly. Slowly he starts regaining control. His mind is still powerful, but now more stable. With his brain working at lightning speed again, Eddie begins making smarter, more calculated choices. The first, he designs a custom suit with a hidden pocket inside. Keep his pills safe. Eddie's life keeps moving forward, but now he has a new mission. He meets with a chemist, hands him one of the NZT pills, and asks him to create create a safer version, one without any harmful side effects. Eddie pays him a huge sum of money and tells him, "I need this done within 6 months." As time passes, Eddie keeps working hard. He partners again with the businessman Carl Van Loon and helps take Carl's company to the top. He also invests in the stock market, using Carl's money and funds from other wealthy businessmen. Soon, Eddie becomes a successful stockbroker, and before long, a millionaire. But success never comes without danger. One day, a police officer arrests Eddie. A video has surfaced, showing him with the dying girl at the hotel. Eddie immediately calls his lawyer. After hearing everything, the lawyer manages to get him released. But later, when Eddie checks his suit pocket for his pills, they're gone. He realizes his lawyer must have stolen them. Meanwhile, the Russian loan shark Gennady is still after him. He wants more pills. To get rid of him, Eddie gives Gennady a few and sends him away. During this time, Eddie is working on a massive merger between Carl's company and another corporation owned by Hank Atwood. If the deal goes through, Eddie will make over $40 million. But on the day of the meeting, Hank's wife shows up instead. She informs Carl that Hank is in the hospital, and the merger can only happen once he recovers. As Hank's wife leaves, Eddie notices his driver outside, the same man who's been following him for days. In that moment, everything clicks. The driver works for Hank, and Hank himself used to take NZT pills. The driver had been following Eddie, because Hank had run out of pills, and without them, his body and mind began to collapse. Later, when Eddie returns home, Gennady appears at his door, angry, desperate, and demanding that Eddie let him in. Eddie refuses, but Gennady starts breaking down the door. Eddie has no pills left, and no way out. He steps onto the edge of his balcony, ready to end his life. Then suddenly, he remembers, there might still be one pill left somewhere. He searches frantically, drawers shelves the floor, until finally he finds it. But just as he reaches for it, the door bursts open. Gennady storms in with 2 of his men. Startled, Eddie falls. The pill slips from his hand and rolls out of reach. The men grab him. Gennady snarls, "Where are the rest of the pills?" But instead of swallowing the pill like Eddie does, Gennady takes a syringe and injects the drug directly into his veins, believing it will last longer. His body surges with energy. His eyes widen with power. While Gennady's men search the apartment, Eddie seizes his chance. He grabs a broken shard of glass and drives it straight into Gennady's stomach. Gennady collapses. Blood spills across the floor. Eddie's condition is worsening. He's on the verge of passing out. Then suddenly, he remembers something. Gennady injected the pill. It means the NZT is still in his blood. Desperate to survive, Eddie bends down and drinks the blood. Disgusting, but it works. The pill enters his system. His mind clears. Strength returns. With renewed power, Eddie fights back, taking out Gennady's men one by one, until the room falls silent. He escapes into the night. Meanwhile, news breaks. Hank Atwood has died in the hospital. Eddie, determined to finish what he started, goes to Hank's driver. He explains everything about the pills, the murders, the chaos. The driver, shocked but convinced, agrees to help. Together, they track down Eddie's lawyer. They tie him up, tear apart the place. Finally, Eddie finds the missing pills. 1 year later, Eddie's life has completely changed. His book is published. He's started his own company. He's a billionaire now, and running for president. One day, Carl visits Eddie at his office. He knows the truth, that Eddie's genius comes from the NZT pills. Carl smiles slyly and says, "I own the company that made those pills, and I shut it down. If you want more, you'll have to work for me." But Eddie just smiles back. As Carl gets up to leave, Eddie glances toward the street and says, "See that car coming? In 3 seconds it'll hit the one in front of it." Carl looks out, and exactly as Eddie predicted, the crash happens. Eddie turns to him and says calmly, "Carl, I'll always be 1 step ahead, with or without NZT." Then he reveals the truth. He's already created his own version of the pill. A cleaner, safer formula. No side effects. And then he exposes Carl's secret corruption, his manipulation, his crimes. Carl's face goes pale. He realizes he's lost and quickly leaves. The story ends quietly. Eddie sits with Lindy in a small Chinese restaurant. He speaks to the waiter, fluent Chinese, smooth and confident, as he places their order. Lindy watches him carefully, her mind racing with one question. Has Eddie truly stopped taking the pills, or has he just become something beyond them? And with that thought, the story comes to an end.